everyone, welcome back to English class. Dear students, as you know that we have been reading a lesson from the book An Alien Hand, and today we are going to complete the lesson, and the name of the lesson is A Tiger in the House. So keep your books open and let's have a quick recap what we have read previously. And grandfather of narrator brought a tiger cub at home, and grandmother and the cook Mahmood brought him up with love and care. Tiger was named Timothy by grandmother, and he got two companions, the monkey and the puppy, in the house. And narrator became Tiger's favorite at home. And yes, in the last para, we have read that Timothy had clean habits and would scrub his face, and obviously he used to sleep in the cook's quarter and always felt delight whenever they went out for the walk. Okay, so now let's get started with the next part of the lesson, page number 60. As Timothy grows up, he becomes less friendly and rather dangerous, and grandfather decides to transfer him to the zoo. 6 months later, grandfather pays Timothy a visit. Timothy is happy to see grandfather, or is he? So these are the key points about which we are going to read in the next part. So one of these days, declared grandmother in her prophetic manner, we are going to find Timothy sitting on Mahmood's bed and no sign of the cook except his clothes and shoes. Now grandmother is declaring something. Okay, so she had given the future predictions. Okay, about, she was saying that nowadays what will happen according to the grandmother, that one day Timothy would eat Mahmood and he will lie on Mahmood's bed, and we will find only Mahmood's clothes and shoes. Okay, now according to her observation about Timothy, she was saying that one day he would eat the what? Mahmood. So of course it never came to that. Next page. But when Timothy was about 6 months old, a change came over him. He grew stately, less friendly. When out for a walk with me, he would try to steal away to stalk a cat or someone's pet dog. Sometimes at night we would hear frenzied cackling from the poultry house, and in the morning there would be feathers lying all over the veranda. Timothy had to be chained up more often, and finally, when he began to stalk Mahmood about the house with what looked like villainous intent, grandfather decided it was time to transfer him to a zoo. So what happened, and why grandmother made the prophecy about Timothy, that one what happened, it never came to it was never came the time that Timothy ate Mahmood, but some changes had been there in Timothy's behavior. And what was that? Like Timothy was about 6 months old. He was 6 months old, and now he became a grown up, and yes, bigger also. And as he became less friendly. Okay, so when out for a walk with, whenever the narrator went for the walk with Timothy, what he would always try to steal some time. Okay, and he just got away from narrator and used to follow the cat or some other's pet dog. Why? Because he wanted to eat them. Now he was intending to eat some others animals. Okay, because everybody knows tiger is a very dangerous animal, and he used to hunting others, right? So similarly, now he used to stalk others. Sometimes at night we would hear. Now what happened in the night? During the night time, all the people of the house used to hear some kind of loud and frantic voice, okay, from the poultry house. And obviously everybody knows who lived in poultry house. Hens. Okay, so now, and in the morning there would be feathers lying all over the veranda. During the night they used to hear some noises from the poultry farm, and that was loud and frantic noises. And in the morning they found feathers lying all over the veranda. It means during the night Timothy went to the poultry house, and ate hens also. Okay, so Timothy had to be changed up more often. So most of the time it should be changed up. But finally, when he began to stalk Mahmood about the house with what looked like villainous intent. Villainous means wicked and dangerous intention. Okay, so whenever they observed that Timothy had started stalking, following Mahmood, during about the house, so with the very fixed and dangerous looks, obviously they all became scared. So grandfather decided that he should be transferred to the zoo. Reserving a first class compartment for himself and Timothy, no one would share a compartment with them. Grandfather took him to Lucknow, where the zoo authorities were only too glad to receive as a gift a well-fed and fairly civilized tiger. So what happened? He reserved a first class compartment ticket of the train and went to Lucknow with Timothy. Okay, and in one compartment only Timothy and grandfather was there. And when they both reached the zoo, and zoo authorities were very happy because they got a very well fed and civilized tiger as a gift. They haven't they were no need to pay any money for the tiger, so they all were very happy. About 6 months later, when my grandparents were visiting relatives in Lucknow, grandfather took the opportunity of calling at the zoo to see how Timothy was getting on. I was not there to accompany him, but I heard all about it when I returned to Dehra. So now, after 6 months later, okay, grandfather gifted the Timothy into the zoo, and after 6 months later, he went there. Sorry, grandparents went to Lucknow to visit the visit the relatives, and there he got opportunity. He got the chance to visit the zoo so that he would see how Timothy was growing up and how he was living there. So what happened? Arriving at the zoo, grandfather made straight for the particular cage in which Timothy had been interned. The tiger was there, crouched in a corner, full grown and with a magnificent striped coat. Okay, so arriving at the zoo, now grandfather was at the zoo, and what he was watching, grandfather made straight for the particular cage where, and grandfather knew that which cage they have placed the Timothy. So he went straight to there, and yes, the tiger was there. Tiger was there, crouched in a corner, sitting in a corner, and full grown. Now he was a full grown tiger and with a magnificent striped coat. Striped coat means everybody knows the outer part of the tiger, they have striped on their body. So similarly, now he was just looking a beautiful tiger. Hello Timothy, said grandfather, and put his arm through the bars of the cage. Everybody knows that whenever we went to the zoo, whenever we go to the zoo, we see the cage, simple bars were there. So what the grandfather did, he just put his hand into the cage and saying, hello Timothy. The tiger approached the bars and allowed grandfather to put both hands around his head. Grandfather stroked the tiger's forehead and tickled his ear, and wherever he crawled, smacked him across the mouth, which was his old way of keeping him quiet. So what they were doing, as grandfather put his hand into through the bars into the cage, just the tiger came near to the cage bars, and yes, he allowed grandfather to put both his hand on his face. And the grandfather was just touching his forehead, tickling his ears, and just keeping him calm, and obviously hit lightly across the mouth, and just a way of showing love, right? So he was just showing the love to Timothy. But what happened, as you can see, the picture is here, and yeah, here is the cage, here is the tiger, here is the grandfather, and he was he has put his hand here, and yes, he was licking his hand, whose Timothy was licking grandfather's hand. So what happened, he licked grandfather's hands and only sprang away when a leopard in the next cage snarled at him. Grandfather shooed the leopard away, and the tiger returned to lick his hand. But every now and then the leopard would rush at the bars, and he would slink back to his corner. So everybody knows that the leopard is also a very dangerous animal. So he was also in another cage. So he licked grandfather's hand, Timothy was licking hand, and only sprang away when a leopard in the next cage snarled at him. And only just he left the grandfather's hand only when in the from the another cage he just heard the roaring sound of the leopard. Grandfather shooed the leopard away. So as he was scaring the tiger, he was roaring at the tiger, so grandfather just shoot leopard away, means he was trying to send him back, and the tiger returned to lick his hand, and tiger just came to grandfather and started licking. But every now and then the leopard would rush at the bars and he would slink back to his corner. Okay, so similarly what was going on, the leopard was roaring, similarly the tiger was giving the reply, and afterwards they just going back to the corner. A number of people had gathered to watch the reunion when a keeper pushed his way through the crowd and asked grandfather what he was doing. Okay, so people all obviously many visitors were there to visit the zoo, so number of people had gathered to watch the reunion. They were just happy to see how the tiger, means a dangerous animal, licking the hand of the grandfather. So they all were very happy to see this, the reunion of the persons, when a keeper means who was working in the zoo, so he keeper pushed his way through the crowd and asked grandfather what he was doing. So it just made his way keeper and came near to the grandfather and asking, what were you doing? I haven't been there here very long, said the surprised keeper. Please continue your conversation, but I have never been able to touch him myself. He is always very bad tempered. So now what the surprised keeper was very surprised to see the things, and he was saying, I haven't been very long there. After a long time I came here. So please continue your conversation. You just continue, but I have never been able to touch him myself. He is always very bad tempered. Now he was saying about the tiger that he was always a bad tempered tiger, and he never got a chance, or he never able to touch him the tiger by himself. Why don't you put him somewhere else, suggested grandfather. That leopard keeps frightening him. I'll go and see the superintendent about it. So now the grandfather suggesting ki please try to change the cage of this tiger, because that leopard always used to scare him, and obviously they become very scared. Tiger became scared. So let me see the superintendent so that I will find the solution. Grandfather went in search of the superintendent of the zoo, but found that he had gone home early, and so, after wandering about the zoo for a little while, he returned to Timothy's cage to say goodbye. It was beginning to get dark. Right, so grandfather went to see the superintendent, means head of the zoo, but he found that the person had gone to his home earlier, and yes, he was not able to meet him. So he just, after venturing about the zoo, grandfather was just visited zoo completely, and he returned to Timothy's cage. He came back to Timothy and saying goodbye, because it was the evening time and he was to go back. He wanted to go back to the home. He had been stroking and slapping Timothy for about 5 minutes when he found another keeper observing him, and with some alarm. Grandfather recognized him as the keeper who had been there when Timothy had first come to the zoo. So now, when again he came to the cage, near to the cage, he started slapping and stroking Timothy, means he was showing his love by touching the Timothy the tiger, right? And he was doing these for 5 minutes, and he was observed that another keeper, not the same he met before, another keeper was there, and he was observing grandfather and tiger's behavior, and he was giving some alarm, means giving some warning, and grandfather recognized that that was the keeper was there when he came 6 months earlier to give the tiger here. Okay, when before 6 months, when he had came there to give Timothy to the zoo, then that keeper was there. So he recognized him. You remember me, said grandfather. Now why don't you transfer Timothy to another cage away from this stupid leopard? Now, said grandfather saying, do you remember me, means have you recognized me? Okay, then why don't you, means now he was saying or suggesting, then try to change the cage of the tiger, because that leopard always used to scare him. But sir, stammered the keeper, it is not your tiger. Now the keeper was stammering, not saying able to properly, and he was just stammering in the fear. Sir, it is not your tiger, means this tiger is not Timothy. I know, said grandfather. I realize he is no longer mine, but you might at least take a suggestion or two from me. So now the grandfather was saying that I know it is not mine because I have given it to you, now it is yours, but still you can take my suggestions how you can take care of it. Then I remember your tiger very well, said the keeper. He died 2 months ago. Now, what was the suspense here? That Timothy had been died 2 months ago. It was not that particular Timothy, right? Tiger was there, but not Timothy. Died, exclaimed grandfather. So grandfather was very shocked and seeing died. My God. So yes, sir, of pneumonia. This tiger was trapped in the hills only last month and he is very dangerous. Then the keeper replied, yes, sir, because of pneumonia he died, and this tiger was brought from the hill, right? So means it had come from the forest, jungle, and he is very dangerous. Grandfather could think of nothing to say. The tiger was still licking his arms with increasing relish. Grandfather took what seemed to him an age to withdraw his hand from the cage. Okay, so as they both were conversating, they were both were talking, grandfather and the keeper. During that time also, grandfather's hand was with tiger. Okay, and now he observed. Now grandfather was not able to see anything. He was just get shocked and his body become freeze, and he just the tiger was still licking his arm. Firstly he was licking his hand, now he reached to the arm, and with increased relish, with increased curiosity, and he was licking his hand, his arm, and grandfather took what seemed to him an age to withdraw his hand from the cage, and without any delay he just took out from the cage his arm. With his face near the tigers, he mumbled, good night, Timothy, and giving the keeper a scornful look, walked briskly out of the zoo. Okay, and just he was not able to see anything else. He just put his face near to the cage and say good night, and he just gave a very weird look to the keeper and walked briskly out of the zoo, and swiftly he just came out from the zoo. So here is the end of the lesson. I hope you all have enjoyed the lesson. And yes, there were two tigers. One was Timothy, and he was very quiet and very good kind of tiger, but after 4 months he got died, but grandfather didn't know about this, and when he visited the zoo he thought that that particular tiger is his Timothy, and yes, he was showing the same love, but later on he came to know that he was not Timothy, so he became very scared and just went out from the zoo swiftly. Okay, so I hope you all have understood. Please keep reading the lesson by your own. Thank you so much.